And Joe Madden with us today, of course, as always, every Friday here, going over the NFL college football last look before the weekend. This will be the final look before the weekend, except for our Saturday college football show and Sunday college football show. And the drive-thru tonight. So, other than that,
so
this will be the last look.
One of the last.
Other than that, this is the last look. Oh, man.
This is the last deep dive.
I forgot my phone. Could play Carrie's my full-blown Karen, her impersonation of me.
Oh.
Those Colts. That frickin' coach.
Anyone who didn't hear the morning show, go back and listen to it. It's priceless.
My
Nick
wife
plays it right before the intro, so you'll get to hear it.
Tony knows my wife, so he knows she's just making fun of me, like doing the impersonation of me watching the game last night. She's like, "This is gonna be the worst beat ever."
Well,
that game became very stressful at the end there.
If you were on the Jets, you had a feeling there was going to be something to screw it up at the end. You had no problem covering that game because you were on the Jets. You knew something was going to go wrong. Everything went too right to that point. Something was bound to go wrong.
I had the Colts, and I did not feel good about it with Frank Reich out of the Doug Peterson coaching line. But yeah, we've got a good card this weekend. It's kind of a little bit like last week where we saw like a lot of, these middle matchups. And I think we really dialed in. Last week after doing the show with you guys, it was my best weekend of football of the season of picking games. So the one that got me was the Maryland game with the Indiana with the third string quarterback. That one got me, and Missouri were the only two games I lost on Saturday. It was 7-2. Missouri, they hadn't covered all season. I just figured against Vandy that was the time. They just didn't get it done.
Yeah.
And Sunday it was the Bengals. I don't know. I just can't explain. And I got a push on that Rams game, which was very similar to that Colts-Jets game last night.
Yeah, it sure was. It sure was. The way they came. I had a pretty good weekend as well. The only one I lost on my premium side was that Stanford game. And
We've got Stanford and Utah tonight. I mean, we've gone over this game up and down. If you have any comments, I know last week you were all over the benching of Brewer and what that had done for Utah. And I played it as a premium. I was in. It was
well, that was a house of horrors there for UCLA, and they have a horrible time there. I'm a little nervous laying points with Utah on the road. They're a much different team on the road than they are at home. And Stanford's one of those teams that if their run game is going, their defense is playing well, they can stay in the game. So I'm going to just sit back. I'm not going to make this one a premium.
We've also got the red bandana game tonight at Boston College. It is kind of a big symbolic game and all of that other stuff, but it doesn't mean they always win it. That's for sure. Boston College has really done me dirty this year, and last week I finally went against them and saw some of those long touchdowns go for my team instead of going against me when I have Boston College.
Yeah, it's not the same team since they lost Jerkovich at Notre Dame transfer, and Grossell, the backup, has just not got the job done for them. So
I believe he's back tonight, though.
Jerkovich is back?
I believe so. That's what's the rumor I heard.
I saw. Let's see. I'm showing Grossell here. I thought it was a season-long injury for Jerkovich. I thought it was a.
Not sure. I saw it in the comments this morning, but I certainly wouldn't bank.
Phil Jerkovich, I show him is out. Could miss the rest of the season is what they said on his hand. He could miss the remainder of the season. Is what I'm showing here. But I show him out. His estimated return 11-15.
All right. Well, we've got a bunch of games in the early slot tomorrow. We've got Kansas State, Ohio State, Nebraska, Wake, North Carolina. All those games, at least the Ohio State, Nebraska, and Wake, North Carolina, certainly have implications going down the road. Then Pitt against Duke, and yeah, just as we thought, Miami knocking off Pitt outright last week. And Ole Miss Liberty, some bad blood there for you Freeze. I don't never understand why there's bad blood when you get fired for recruiting violations. Georgia against Missouri. Missouri looking for that first cover of the year, getting 39.5. That's 5.5 touchdowns. Got Minnesota against Illinois. The Flexter got a contract extension. And Miami against Georgia Tech. Tony, any of these jump off the page at you?
Well, the one that does, actually the super early game, I looked at the under here with Army and Air Force, the 11:30 a.m. Eastern game. That's something I put a circle on. It could be a premium. This Kansas State team, we saw how good they are on the offensive and defensive line against TCU. But I would look in this one, I would look to be taking the points here with Nebraska. When you look at Nebraska, they've been a competitive team, even in their losses. They've all been by one possession, and there's an offense that can produce about 449 yards a game.
Especially against a bad defense. It's normally a Taylor Martinez turnover at the worst possible time. Is what's been Nebraska's undoing. Joe, we got SMU and Memphis. I know these are teams that you like, and this line has dropped from 6 to 4.5.
Yeah, interesting drop in this one. I really think, okay, so there is a dog streak out on this one. We have a dog streak out on Liberty also at the site. So let me just give you that one first. Liberty, as a dog, has covered the spread in their last 6 games. So
they're not a dog too often, though. They were a dog against Syracuse.
Yeah.
And they lost the game, but they covered.
Yeah, and then when we look at Memphis as well, same situation. They have covered as an underdog in their last 6. But this line has come down so much. I like them so much better at plus the 6 over the plus the 4.5. So I think it's getting really tight there, and I think SMU takes it.
But you have to also remember that Liberty gave up the biggest loss to a dog this season.
Yeah.
Losing outright to Louisiana Monroe, 32.5 point favorite in that game, losing by 3. And
it was awful.
Yeah, I was on Liberty, so it was extra awful for me. And at least they lost outright. At that point, if you're not going to cover it, at least lose outright.
Yeah.
And they did. So I felt a little bit better about it, but I don't have much confidence in them. The quarterback is rated the top quarterback for NFL prospects, the Liberty quarterback. But I don't see it.
Yeah, I think the Liberty defense has kind of tailed off a little bit. 7 yards per pass attempt allowed, and they play a lot of mid-major teams. And what I'm looking for in these mid-major teams, I'm looking for them to dominate their conference. When I say dominate, I mean giving up about 250 to 270 yards a game. That's when you dominate conferences like Boise State would do, and Coastal Carolina a few years ago. So and App State as well. We're starting to. The defense isn't there. I can't back them in this one.
I could see Ole Miss lighting them up in this one. But been wrong before. Plenty.
Well, there's a certain profile that you look at for a mid-major team, and the profile I look for is the yards allowed, and even against bad teams. If they're keeping teams under 300 yards a game, then I can put a circle around them and say, this is a team I can look at moving forward when they go up against tougher competition.
How about this Minnesota-Illinois game? It seems to be a lot of points.
I agree, it's a lot of points, and I would look at dogs. I'll look at the dog in this one. Again, Minnesota's been an unlucky team. They have lost their 3rd running back of the year. They've lost 3 running. They're down to their 4th string. And again, I'm always nervous when there's too much put on the shoulders of Tanner Morgan. And they don't trust him because look at how many passing attempts. He only averages 14 passing attempts a game. Even the coaches don't trust him. So I would look at this to be a run fest. And for this to be, I would look at the points here with Illinois.
Yeah, I could see. Go ahead, Joe. I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to say I'd be looking, though, at the over because I know it's going to be more of a run-style game. But what we're seeing out of these offenses, they might be able to just push it over. I think this is just a slight bit too low in this one. Just a tad too low, like by a couple points.
I could see this one being a high-scoring game. I'm with you.
Yeah.
Really don't like Liberty these days. The thing is, I went back on them the next week like an idiot, thinking that they maybe a focused week of practice, and wasn't there again. It's like beat me twice, and I went against Louisiana Monroe the following week on the letdown spot, which I lost both of those. So I lost the game, and then I double lost it the following week. Somehow I could probably turn it into 3 losses. I can keep the pyramid going.
Well, before we move on, Mitch, what's your thoughts with your Hurricane here?
Against Georgia Tech, I think we found some answers here. And I think this is beating ranked teams on back-to-back weeks. It's something that we've seen, there's a team that's ranked number 6 in the college football playoff poll that hasn't beaten, hasn't done that. So, I think that, it's probably too late for this year. I don't know if it's too late to save Manny Diaz's job, but I like what I'm seeing. I like the downfield passing game. I like when you throw 14-yard passes on 3rd and 12. I don't like 6-yard passes on 3rd and 12 and hope that the guy creates in space. Because our guys have been dropping the ball in those situations. I think we're going to kill them. I think we're going to slaughter Georgia Tech. Rolling.
Absolutely do too as well.
We got some good games in the next slot. Arizona's playing. Speaking of good teams, 0-8 on the season. They are 4-4 against the number though. Up against Cal, perfect 3-0 against the number on the road. Got East Carolina Temple. That's some straight garbage. URI in a pick'em against UMass. Who would have thunk it? Notre Dame Navy, Texas A&M Auburn. That's like one of the feature games of the day. Cincinnati Tulsa. That's where game day will be. Got Maryland Penn State, TCU BYU. Told you to watch out for those battle of those purple teams. Something not good is going to happen. Gary Patterson, 20 years at TCU, fired, as Tony called on the show last week.
Oh yeah,
he said Patterson on his way out at TCU.
I got another one for you today as well. It'll come up a little later.
But I thought I liked the way that Patterson, when they said, "Why don't you stay for the rest of the season?" He said, "No. How about no?" I like that.
Good for him.
Yeah, good for him. No, what does he care? He's getting paid either way.
Yeah.
It's like, did you see the dead money that's being paid out? Like Bo Pelini collected $14 million after he was fired. It's like
nice.
It's $556 million was paid out by universities in dead money. It's crazy because it's state funded, so it's taken away from education, to pay these guys.
Yeah, it's nuts.
Bo Pelini's not worth $14.1 million.
Oh, good.
Best day. West Virginia against Oklahoma State. If you can figure out West Virginia, they should be in the Pac-12. The way that they
That's perfect concert for them.
Yeah, it would be. Rutgers, Wisconsin. I don't know. I'm not ready. And then Purdue, Michigan State. The Sharps are all over Purdue.
No way.
They are.
No way. That's going to be a bad day.
That's going to be the Sharp killer. That's going to be like the Cleveland Browns of a few years ago, where it's just the Sharps just get run over again. Just like on Indiana a few weeks ago. Arkansas, Mississippi State, Florida State, NC State, Utah State, New Mexico State. Anything in there, Tony? In that time slot, I would be looking. New Mexico State has had a good run here against the. You would think they were a Mountain West team. All they're playing are Mountain West teams, and they have a good cover rate against them. And I'm not a big fan of this Utah State defense, so I'm more. I would look to take the points with a New Mexico State team that has actually shown a pulse on offense this year. I would look at their side here as well in this time slot. I would look here at. This Michigan State Purdue team. I mean, the game. I know everyone's on this dog. Aiden O'Connell is been accurate, but he throws a lot of interceptions, so it's hard for me to really back this Purdue team because O'Connell has made a lot of mistakes at quarterback, and that's how I look at this lot here. To me, for Purdue, the Iowa win is getting to be less impressive. And the loss to Minnesota is less impressive as far as I'm concerned as well. That Minnesota loss, I had Purdue in that game. Once again, I always ask Al McMorty these questions. It's like, how much of a mark does a loss leave? And he says he could just walk, or bad beat or whatever. He says he could just move on to the next game. I hold a grudge. I can't help it. I openly admit it.
I think we all been in that route when we were burned by the same team.
Yeah.
Or the coach. It's usually the same coach, the same team, right?
I mean, Purdue has won 3 of their last 5, but they haven't covered in 3 of their last 5.
You know? And they're just a hard team to watch. It's hard watching their games. It's their offense should be a lot better.
I don't know. You beat Nebraska. Congratulations. Joe,
what do you guys think? What do you guys think of the Wisconsin and Rutgers game? I'm looking at this game, and we're looking at Rutgers. Their quarterback is questionable. We've got such a low total in this. Wisconsin, a big favorite. I'm really leaning on Wisconsin here. I think Rutgers is going to have a heck of a time against this defense of Wisconsin. But 37.5, do you guys think that this game will stay under that number?
Yeah, I'm a little nervous with the total because Rutgers has just been beat up. I mean, when you see that they were just pounded here by what the big schools on their schedule. Was it Michigan State, Ohio State, and Michigan just pounded them, and their offense didn't produce much. The only thing I'm worried about is that Wisconsin with their running and the way Rutgers defense is played, Wisconsin may cover this on their own.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm a little nervous here because I can see them pile up some big plays here on the ground, and only because Rutgers has not been able to handle the physical pressure of opposing offensive lines when they face the schools like Michigan, Ohio State, Michigan State this year. They look terrible.
I took Wisconsin against Michigan and Notre Dame, and I just can't get behind Paul Chryst. Just can't do it. And I think that against Rutgers, I think Schiano is going to outcoach him. I think it's going to be a lot closer than this. We saw Rutgers keep it close against Michigan on the road too. I think they're going to be able to keep it close here. Hate Wisconsin. You got 2 teams with the same colors, so that's
something bad's going to happen.
Yeah, nothing good's
going to happen. I know the story now.
But I think Michigan State, I don't see how they stop. I mean, I don't see how Purdue stops them. It's like they've played way tougher schedule.
Purdue looked pretty good against Minnesota. That was a pretty good outcome for them.
So did Bowling Green.
Yeah, that's true. Bowling Green, but that was
very good point.
That's true. It looked like a short number there. It was with Minnesota in that game, and that's the one that has me nervous there in this one. But again, the quarterback for Purdue is just someone I can't trust. I mean, he's accurate with his passing. Look at his past 3 games, completing 75% of his throws, but those incomplete passes are completed to the opposite team. So none of his balls fall incomplete.
Purdue's had a lot of success against Michigan State. That's for sure. I don't know. I don't see it.
Michigan State has won the last straight games, like straight up. Last 8 games versus Purdue.
Yeah, but Purdue is covered, I think, in all of them.
I think so, yeah.
I don't trust Maryland's defense to take the points in their game against Penn State.
No, not at all. I don't trust their offense either.
No. And Clifford, I will give Clifford this credit. He did look pretty good. He did look pretty good here in that game against Ohio State. Even though he took, he got the sack with that return for a touchdown. If you look at his numbers, he did a good completion percent, 67% completion rate, 361 yards against Ohio State in that atmosphere. I got to tip my cap off to Clifford. I mean, I think he's turning around here. Remember when he first broke into Penn State, he was having a hard time, and the student body was getting on him too.
I think Baylor almost too easy. Looks almost too easy against TCU.
You got to see how the kids are going to handle losing their coach of 21 years there.
Yep.
That's a tough pill to swallow. You were on that team where the 21-year-old coach there for 21 years was let go.
I could see West Virginia staying within the number against Oklahoma State also. I could see that happening. West Virginia is just so impossible to figure out. It's like 1 week they're ready to beat Oklahoma. The next week it's like, was this even the same team? And then they beat Iowa State.
What's slipping with this West Virginia team is their defense. Over their past 3 against the Big 12, they're giving up 447 yards. Remember, this was a West Virginia team that really defended well last year in conference.
And the Colts gave up that last night in the third quarter, I think.
I know.
Yeah, they
Third string
did.
quarterback.
Freaking Colts. That coach.
Freaking Colts.
Hey, the teasers won on each side. So you teaser players, you guys are happy.
You got to hear my wife's imitation of me watching the game last night. Those Colts.
Oh, that's a good one.
There was even a longer version of it. I told everyone on the show that coach was a dick.
I think that was the text you sent me too while watching the game.
Oh, I did.
Right?
Yes.
Well, this is what happens, like we saw with the Rams. When you pay a lot of money to your starters, look what happens when they bring in the bench.
Oh, man.
We saw that with the Texans, right? They turned into the Jaguars. The Jaguars when they went with their backups.
Oh, man. Arkansas, Mississippi State is pretty interesting. Arkansas, I think, has accomplished a lot of things that they already wanted to accomplish this season. I think they did it early, beating Texas A&M. And since then, they've been kind of a letdown, right? Well, Mississippi State, Mike Leach kind of has them playing loose as a goose. We're not hearing him as much as we were used to hearing from him. But maybe that's a good thing.
Well, one thing you're getting out of them is they're getting good defensive play here in the conference. They're holding teams at 310 yards, 5.9 yards per play. So he's getting the defense out of them. And the same story here with Arkansas as last year, right? They had that good start, but then once they play the heavyweights in the conference, they get pounded.
Well, we've seen two offensive coaches in college football this year whose defenses have led the way, and these are the two big offensive coaches, Mike Leach and also Dana Holgorsen at Houston, with his defense kind of leading the way there as well.
Yeah, that is true.
Well, we've got Jimbo Fisher. Oh, not Jimbo Fisher. We've got LSU, Ed Orgeron, in the farewell tour against Alabama. I think Aranda might be the guy for that job. It's awfully quiet over there at LSU right now. Awfully quiet. I think it's Aranda.
Yeah.
Those Baylor coaches, they just scoop him up like no one's business. He's from LSU. He's an LSU guy.
And they're playing defense in a team in a conference where it's hard to play defense.
Yep. Yeah, and the whole thing is they'll bring him in and just claim he was theirs to begin with because he was at LSU.
He's our guy.
Yep. They love that angle.
Yeah.
It's like I think
he was part of the national championship, right? I mean, he was part of that.
I think every coach at LSU, every coach has had a stint at LSU here and there. There are certain programs where like every coach, just like, how about this? Is Steve Sarkisian? So here's the thing. Here's another thing that people say. Oh, Nick Saban clobbers his assistants, right? Do you consider Lane Kiffin a Nick Saban assistant?
Pete Carroll.
Right. And how about Sarkisian?
Pete Carroll.
Exactly. That's exactly what I say. But they use it as he's in the Nick Saban line of coaching, but he's not. They're from the Pete Carroll line.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, a lot of these people in the media, they're publicists to sell people on these programs so they can watch the SEC. So that's what they do. So, you can't really get an honest. These people are media people are more publicity people now than they are just journalists.
I think if you were a head coach before you were an assistant coach for someone, then you can't be from their line. That's all. That's pretty much the way the standard, is. Because is Mario Cristobal from the Nick Saban line? I mean, he was a head coach before he ever had that job.
Yeah, when you become a coach for the first time, your last assistant stop. That's your tree.
How about Greg Schiano? Is he from the Urban Meyer line? It's like he's not from the Urban Meyer line.
Oh.
He's from the Butch Davis, Jimmy Johnson line.
Yeah.
Doesn't there's the line of coaching, there's the coaching lines. And it's like I think that because the Nick Saban hires ex head coaches who don't jump right back into the New Mexico State job, so they hold on for a regular job. Like what used to happen is the guy would get caught for cheating, probation and something. Unless you're Dennis Erickson, right? You end up at they resurface at Texas State or UTEP, right? Is where they have Mike Price, right?
Mike Price, yeah.
Mike Price gets the Alabama job, doesn't even get his name on the door of the office, is already caught with hookers, you know? It's like he got the hookers like before he even checked in. It's like, how does that happen?
He planned ahead.
Yeah.
I mean, how do you get busted with hookers? You haven't even started the job yet.
It's celebration. Big time celebration.
Who was the guy at Notre Dame who faked the resume? George O'Leary.
Yeah.
George O'Leary.
O'Leary, right? And he
Yeah.
had success.
Are you serious?
Oh,
I did not hear about that.
He had success.
That is awesome.
Where did he go? Where did he go? It's one of the South Florida school. He had success there wherever he went to.
Yeah, he went somewhere else, coached the hell out of him.
Yeah.
It's like, it's like he didn't even get the cup of coffee at Notre Dame. It's like, it says that he was offensive coordinator at Air Force, but actually he was only the quarterback's coach. That's it. It was something like that, right? It was something just so petty.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, I mean, I here's a confession because
Who hasn't falsified the resume?
Here's a confession. Okay, I've never had a real resume. Never. And I've also never had a real job reference. I just give out my friends. I did. So any of you that ever checked my job references for any of those jobs I had, the reason why it might not have worked out is because those weren't real references. They were just my friends.
What'd you have to pay your friends to give you a reference?
Nothing. We just do it for each other. I still do it.
Nice.
Oh,
I like it.
Greg's looking for a job. Tell him to give me a call.
Word is gold.
Love it.
As good as gold.
Oh, it's just, Rob? Slam dunk. Guy's a slam dunk. Can't believe he had to leave. You know, it's just, I know he wanted to do other things. I just knew, you know, he's that type of guy. It's like he was having success with us. He could have had a great career, but he wanted to do other things. And, you know, we know that he's the type of guy that's going to be successful no matter what he does. And you tell him things don't work out over there, we always still have a place for him.
That's a good story.
Oh, yeah.
Got it down packed.
I've done it a million times. I don't have a real resume. I do not have a real resume. I learned this on Wall Street. I went to a headhunter on Wall Street to get a job, and he calls me up like a week and a half later, and he says, "All right, I got an interview for the job." He's like, "You got to come back and pick up your resume." I'm like, "Oh, I have resumes here." He's like, "No, come back. I've made some changes to it." Comes back and he explains to me what these terms are on the resume.
No way.
I go to the interview and I get the job. Oh, true story. True story.
Oh, I love it.
I learned at that point, because I've gone on other interviews and, you know, sent resumes out and stuff. I learned at that point, you need to tailor your resume perfectly for, like, these are the things they're looking for. That's exactly what you write into the resume. And then also some fun activities that you like. People I always look at.
What fun activities did you always add?
Well, wine tasting was always one. Golf, like, depending on who the interview's with, you know, you find out who it is. Golf, Broadway shows, you know, whatever it takes. Love a good Broadway show. Seen any shows recently? Of course. Oh, did you see this one? Oh, that was awesome. Freaking awesome. Life-changing, really.
Life-changing. Did it move you to tears? That would be a good question.
You know.
Thought-provoking.
What was your favorite part? It's just hard for me to really even determine what was my favorite part. You know, it was just... So, true story, I worked at Hillshire Farms once, at like a temp job there, and they had like the company outing. You know, it was like the middle of the summer, and, you know, we're all out in the courtyard and they're cooking. You know, they have like chefs, and, you know, it's a company picnic, but they have it's all Hillshire Farm food, right? That they have, they're serving you up. So it's like, and, you know, and the plate is exactly the same. It's not like a fun barbecue, you know, where you slap your, you know, salad on there and stuff. It's like, you know, everything's placed on the plate perfectly, you know, like that. So I sit down at the table by myself, and I don't eat meat, right? So I don't eat red meat. So I got this, you know, thing. And the guy who's like the head guy sits down right next to me at the table. And he's like, "You haven't touched your cheddar wurst." I said, my eyes are bigger than my stomach. This is my second one. I I got it down pat.
You were fast on your feet there, Mitch.
Oh, I'm telling you.
Yeah.
This is why I've never had a job I wasn't fired from, because I've never been qualified for the job I've been hired for. I'm not a good fit for that position. I might come across on paper as I am, but I'm actually not. It's all fabricated. Yeah, that's how it works.
There you go.
Anyways,
I like it. Good story.
it is a good story, but there'll be some other head coaching vacancies if they need a reference. I can coach. I could be a career counselor. I could be a career counselor for this stuff. Got Colorado, Oregon State. Colorado, tough to figure out. Oregon State, even tougher. Got Kentucky, Tennessee. Tennessee loves to fire a good coach. Kentucky's had Stoops there for a while. He's really done much. South Carolina, Florida. I think Dan Mullen, this could be an eat the contract situation going on in Florida. I talk to Romanelli about that every time he's on the show on Saturdays. Northwestern, Iowa. Clemson, Louisville. Dabo might be on the move. Michigan, Indiana, Iowa State, Texas, Washington, Oregon, Arizona State, USC, who's also taking applications. I can provide a reference if they need one. Anything in that list, Tony, or anything in the rest of the day here?
The rest of the day, I'm going to go ahead and tell you who's the next one to go. And Old Dominion will be on the road to face FIU. And FIU, coached by Butch Davis, has been a major disappointment. Look at their defense against the Conference USA. They're giving up 517 yards a game. FIU is home. Old Dominion was a complete doormat, one of the worst teams in college football last year. And can you believe they're road favorites? They should be road favorites. When Old Dominion beats FIU, when you wake up in the morning, you're going to see Butch Davis fired at FIU.
I'll tell you what, Miami might pick him up. He's a great recruiter. I think that's what's happened is now they're so on top of him as far as recruiting. But he's the greatest evaluator of high school talent in the history of college football. I don't know a guy who's a better evaluator of high school talent than Butch Davis in the history of high school football. I mean, in college football. Look at his list. You know, he's got the 5 stars that he's able to land. And then he's also got the guys that no one ever heard of that have become NFL Hall of Famers. He's got it all. He's got everything. He's got.
He does, and it's a shame because of the record. He's not really hireable anyplace. You know, that's the sad part.
He has arguably the best running back, the best wide receiver, and the best linebacker to ever play the game. We're all recruited by him, which is unbelievable. You know, this is the guy that recruited Michael Irvin and Andre Johnson and Reggie Wayne. This is the guy, you know, and Reggie Wayne was a tough get. You know, he came out of Texas. He got him to Miami. And this is the guy that recruited Barry Sanders at Oklahoma State. That was not an easy get. And then he also, Ray Lewis was his guy too at Miami, which no one really even wanted. You know? So, you know, you've recruited Ray Lewis, Barry Sanders, Thurman Thomas was one of your guys. I mean, Frank Gore, goes on and on, man. This guy really has a resume of recruiting just absolute superstars. Ed Reed was his guy, and so was Sean Taylor. And, I mean, it really goes on and on, right? I mean, this guy's got a list. Jerome Brown was his.
Yeah, he has.
Edgerrin James was the guy. Oh, he's got thrown out of Notre Dame. We don't want this guy. Come on over. You can play with us. We'll give you a shot. It's like, okay. You just get Willis McGahee was his guy. It's like you just give him. He's like Edgerrin James. Like, we'll just give this guy the ball on every play until we figure something else out. It's a good idea.
Kentucky's hard to go against at home. And I know LSU's down, so is Florida, but they have wins there. Tennessee's not performed well on the road, so I would look at Kentucky in that one. And then in the night games, late night action. I think we got to Clemson, Louisville here. The quarterback play here at Cunningham has been pretty effective. I would look to take the points in that Louisville Clemson game.
Yeah,
I'm with you on that one.
Butch Davis was rung up at North Carolina too.
Yeah, he was.
That really was his downfall. Was all the recruiting violations. He had some great recruits there too. Joe, sorry about that. Go ahead.
No, that's okay. I was just agreeing with Tony on that Louisville. I think that's a great call. I hate Clemson to cover a spread. We know that they came out and did it and won in that one game, but I don't see it happening here. I think they have another aggression and fail to cover the spread again.
Yeah, in the comments, it's amazing how many great players came from the U in the 90s. Those are all the Butch Davis recruits, though. You know, in the 90s and the 2000s. Butch Davis teams have the 2 longest winning streaks in the modern day era of college football. You know, Oklahoma has the longest winning streak, but that was before there were black players allowed him to play college football. I don't think those records count. You know, I honestly don't. And, you know, they won 55 in a row. Miami won 39 in a row and 37 in a row. So, I don't know.
Yeah. You know, Northwestern's a school that rebuilds. They don't have the opportunity to really, replace their starters with quality starters. It takes time for them. They've been beat up a lot this year. They've lost 27 points in Minnesota, 26 in Michigan, 17 in Michigan State. I could see, 49 in Nebraska. That was a horrible. I mean, they looked terrible in that game against Nebraska. It's a young team. They're going to need some time to develop here. I could see Iowa really just physically beating them at the line of scrimmage on both ends.
Yeah, Northwestern's a team that kind of like the old Penn State teams. Every 4 years they're good, type thing. Because it takes it takes Fitzgerald that long. Sometimes we get a 3-year with him, but it's kind of like the way Paterno used to do it. It just took 4 years of basically the same guys playing together. Northwestern's really good when they have about 18 returning starters.
Yeah, and the home field kind of wanes when you lose too many games and get blown out at home. When you lose too many, you lose the home field.
So when Florida hired Dan Mullen, I said, you guys got yourself a 500 coach, because that's what this guy does. He coaches, good teams to 500 records. And then because of the SEC bowl tie-ins, he has it on his resume that they won this bowl and that bowl. But here they are against South Carolina, 20.5-point favorites. You trust them in this spot? I mean, they've lost both their step-up games. They got stepped on. And, you could say they covered against Alabama, but you can't tell a Gator fan, like a real Gator fan, that's what they're looking for there. And, then he has the other losses, the other bad losses, Kentucky and LSU. I mean, the LSU loss is hideous because it's back-to-back years against a bad LSU team. And then Kentucky, it's like, you're Florida. You don't lose to Kentucky. That's not a good sign. So they just signed him to an extension, but I can't see them hanging on for that long.
No, not with the performance we're seeing here. And in this game here, and this is like you said, this is the game where Florida has an advantage. They can step on the South Carolina team. I just don't have a lot of confidence, and I haven't for the last couple of years. Actually, since Spurrier left South Carolina, I haven't really had a whole lot of confidence back in this Gamecocks program. They've really had their share of trouble here against upper tier teams in the SEC. Losses by 30 to Texas A&M, 25 to Tennessee, 27 against Georgia. It's just the offense. I mean, against the conference, they're only averaging 15 points a game. So it's just pretty hard for me to make a case for South Carolina in this one.
Joe, Gamecocks?
Yeah, hard to make. Yeah, I think so, because I just think it's just way too many points here. I struggle to take Florida with that many points laying. I can't get behind it. I have to go with the Gamecocks.
I can't even comment on this thing without it coming out odd.
Hey, I actually have one of their hats. I can't remember where it is. I have a friend who is from South Carolina, huge Gamecock fan.
I'm sure it's vulgar.
They
have a good time with it. I know that.
Well, since we have a hard time with this one, the total is 52.5.
I'm sure the fans.
I can see the defense is laying down in this one.
I think this is one of the South Carolina games where they have the big sign in the stands that says, "You can't beat our cocks." And I think that's what might just happen in this one. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure it will. Like, who did come up with their nickname?
Well, there's other Gamecocks out there. There's other Gamecocks.
I know, but come on.
It was years and years before.
It was a long time ago. I mean, these guys have a really good time with it too.
Some of the they do. My friend has an absolute blast with it. She thinks it's the best thing ever. She loves screaming at watching the TV.
Well, there was another male name out there, that was used. Remember Dick Clark? You don't see people name with that first name anymore.
My grandfather's name was Dick on my mom's side.
Well, it's Richard.
It's Richard, right?
Yeah, no one knew him as Richard, though. He got called Dick by every single person.
Mm.
Yeah. My brother's name is Richard. I call him Ricardo, though. He hates it. True story.
So Michigan against Indiana. Indiana's a cesspool this year.
Oh, God.
They are just terrible, terrible, terrible. And this is the type of game where Jim Harbaugh, like, this is the type of game, right? We've seen this a million times, like how we knew that, like, you know, Frank Reich was going to be an idiot last night. Jim Harbaugh, this is the game where he's like the Kirby Smart style idiot. And Kirby Smart's also in a game where this is going to happen too. They're going to be up by like 40 points with like 3 minutes left to play. One of the players is going to do something stupid like a illegal motion penalty or offsides on defense that extends a drive. That, I mean, the other team would be like on their own 8-yard line or something, you know, make it 2nd and 5. And he's going to make a scene, you know, and it just embarrass this kid in front of everybody in a game that's well beyond reach, you know, and way over. And that's what he does, you know. And it's like, I could see it that this is that type of game, this Indiana game. Also, so Steve Sarkisian and Dan Mullen, to me, are the same guy, you know. It's like way too much credit, right? How long is he going to last at Texas? I mean, they realize now. There's one thing I know about Texas. One thing we know about Texas is that they always know when they made a mistake, and they're already calculating how long do we have to sit this one out. You know, they already know it, right? So they've realized they've made a mistake. It's like when you have conditioning this bad, it's like you realize you've made a mistake. So, because they've lost these games on conditioning, right? In the fourth quarter implosion is conditioning. So, I don't know. They're in big trouble here. They're going to go under 500.
That's true.
I mean, even Shaka Smart was replaced at Texas. So
yeah, he was. And,
now he left for the Marquette job.
That's right.
He didn't want that Texas money anymore. Just go over to Marquette. I'm ready for college hoops.
The only thing with this Iowa State team is they're really trending poorly defensively. You know, that loss to West Virginia, they gave up nearly 500 yards, and they're getting hit. They're giving up a lot of long passing plays, and that kind of plays to the strength of Texas. Well, this could actually, when you look at it, you may think, well, Iowa State plays defense. No, they're not. So this could actually point to a higher scoring game.
Yeah, I love the over in this one. I'd rather take the over than risk the points with Texas, just because we've seen them just give up some terrible plays defensively.
Tony, of course, has the drive-through a little bit later.
A little later.
Good host, good series of guests. It's the Friday lineup, so it's got Al Ninos and Jovan, Brian Bittler. Bittler did a tease for what he was going to give out today. I know I wasn't able to take a nap, because the excitement just kept me going. I think it was like total in some lower tier NBA game. It's like, all right. Yeah, it's like, and tonight on the drive-thru, I'll be giving out the total in this one. It's like, whoa. Don't do that to us, Brian. It's like, yeah. How about Oregon against
Fighter? And steak fighter with Rod.
Oh, yeah. Tomorrow's his birthday.
Yes.
Got Washington, Oregon, too. What do you think of this one? Oregon ranked 4th in the CFP and still getting zero respect.
Wow. You know what? I was disappointed with Oregon's defensive play last week. I know they pulled their starters, but defensively it was too easy for Colorado to move the football. And I kept an eye on that game because they gave a strong opinion. I challenged both of you on your Colorado pick last week, and I was on the wrong side of that. But I was a little disappointed with Oregon's defensive play. There was just too much space for Colorado to operate, and their playmakers were catching balls, catching passes with plenty of in space with plenty of yards after the catch, and that's really what worried me here about this Oregon team. Although Washington's a team, it's tough to back because their quarterback play hasn't been very, very good this year, and you need that in this type of conference.
I'm looking for my Jack Rabbit's hat.
And I could also see a high scoring game here because I think Oregon's defense is not up to the task. And when you get down to some of the big games later in the year, even when they play Oregon State, if they get into their bowl game, I'd be nervous about their defense.
I've got my Jackrabbits hat here somewhere. I gotta find it. Get ready for this week. Mike Dom no longer with the Jackrabbits. 17 years at South Dakota State. How about UTSA and UTEP?
Yeah.
These are two surprising teams. UTEP, I mean, hadn't beat, this is the most wins, I think, more than they usually have in a decade.
Yeah, and that kind of tends to the conference. Conference USA is just a weak conference. I mean, Marshall's not playing up to expectations. A lot of the teams in there are not very good. So I would be a little nervous here to actually back UTEP. I want to take them as a dog here, but I saw that blowout loss at Boise State. And Boise State, listen, they're a 4-4 team. They're not the same Boise State team. And that blowout loss at Boise State is still in my memory here with this UTEP team. I've seen UTEP play, on the ESPN Plus channels. I'll watch those because sometimes those primetime games get blown out, and I find out, hey, UTEP plays at 9 Eastern a lot, so you can catch their games on the ESPN Plus. So I've seen some of their play. They look undersized to me, and I'm a little nervous to back them in this one.
Yeah, there's going to be some shifting in this conference. A lot of these guys going to AAC or I saw people leaving Conference USA to go to Sunbelt.
Southern Miss.
Yeah, Southern Miss.
Yeah, they're about right. They should demote their program. That's it.
BYU, UCF, Cincinnati, and Houston going to the Big 12.
Yeah.
July 1st, 2025. Coming to a theater near you.
Wow, that's far out. I can't believe how far they've scheduled that out.
Well, it's because I think that's how long it takes. Because there's all kinds of, when you're in a conference, you have to pay to leave.
Yeah. I'm sure there's a price tag. I'm sure there was a price tag to go next season. They just probably didn't want to pay it,
Yep.
True.
Probably less than what Bryce Young has made in endorsements.
There's a price tag on everything.
All right. We good on college football? Anything?
Yeah, I mean, let's see. The San Diego State-Hawaii game, I look at the dog in this one, +7. I just think Hawaii plays a little better at home. And, again, San Diego State, this one-dimensional, I know Brady Hoke's the quarterback, they play good defense, but that one-dimensional offensive style, it's just at some point you're not gonna get over the top with that.
Hawaii not playing in their home stadium this year. Aloha Stadium is a real mess. Oh. So they got a new stadium. Well, not a new stadium. They have a high school stadium they're playing in, and next year they'll be moved to a regular stadium. But they're finally going to allow fans in the stands. We're the last state, I believe, that's allowing fans in the stands. So there will be some.
Well, that will be exciting.
Limited fans in the stands is what they're allowing. Probably 2,000 fans. We're last. We're the 50th state, so do things a little slower. Island time. Joe, when's your game that you have? Is it tonight or tomorrow?
It's actually tonight.
Oh.
So, yeah, after our VIP show, I'm jumping in the car, headed on out.
Son's playing in a high school playoff game, round 2 after last week's big win.
Yeah.
Now in Canadian high school, do they play Canadian style football or is it NFL? Or is it is it 3rd down or 4 downs?
It's the Canadian style, so full CFL rules. So he's pretty excited. He's pumped, but it's elimination now in playoffs, so fingers crossed.
I'm nervous, very nervous.
I never even asked that. I didn't realize it was 3 downs and you're out of there.
Yeah. I get so mad sometimes watching it because I forget it's the Canadian rules. I'm like, what are you doing? And then I'm like, oh yeah, never mind.
It's a wide open passing attack.
I got to learn how, as an offensive lineman, all you got to worry about is pass blocking. God, that would have been so easy.
All right, we go to the NFL card after last night's nail biter. Dallas against the Broncos. The Giants against the Raiders. Is Odell Beckham Jr. going to be a Raider? He won't play either way, but it would be interesting if the first game he played was against the Giants. Buffalo against the Falcons. The Jaguars against the Bills. Patriots and the Panthers. Ravens and Vikings. Once again, that purple, no good comes out. I could see Zimmer getting fired. Bengals, Browns, Dolphins, Texans. What do you think? You think Zimmer could get fired in that Vikings-Ravens game? Because you got the two purple teams going. The last time that happened was, last week, right? Kansas State, TCU. Yeah. There was a coach fired. I think it could happen again. I think that loss on Sunday night in that Vikings-Cowboys game is one of the worst losses you'll ever see.
Yeah.
I understand the Cowboys are whatever this season, but that was one of the worst losses you'll ever see. Tony, what do you think of any of these early NFL matchups?
The one that got my eye on here is the Las Vegas team, and this whole situation. I got to rethink this because of the situation there with Ruggs. So I had circled this one because I know the Giants have had trouble against passing teams' offenses, but that one now I'm a little confused here which way to go up with it. The Patriots has my attention here because I'm not a big Carolina fan. I haven't been McCaffrey. But back to that Thursday night, why would you play McCaffrey? You know he gets hurt. It's a short week. I think we had this discussion on the drive-through because James Clark gave out a McCaffrey prop. I said, you realize McCaffrey gets hurt a lot and it's a Thursday night game. And the Patriots to me playing a little better football. I know it's a back-to-back road spot here, but I just think you got either P.J. Walker or Sam Darnold, either one of them against Bill Belichick. I'd have to look at the Patriots side.
I'm less than sold on the Patriots being able to cover that half a point. It's that hook. Joe?
Well, Tony, I think you go with your first initial instinct on the Raiders. I think that they come together as a team, just like we saw them with losing John Gruden. I think having their head coach leave versus, I know it's a terrible story around Ruggs. I think this team comes together. I think it's not a team that's going to be broken by any situation off the field. So I'm big in on the Raiders this weekend.
I really like the Falcons against the Saints. It's a rivalry game. I think the Saints are in one of those situations they can't figure out who the quarterback is. It's going to be Simeon, they've announced, not Taysom Hill. They don't know who they are. They got identity problems.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, the Falcons losing Ridley hurts, but
yeah, this is definitely a heated rivalry out in the South. It is. I mean, fans from each city travel and cause a lot of ruckus.
Oh yeah, this is the rivalry game in the NFL.
Yeah.
This is the biggest rivalry. Not always the most meaningful, but to these people it is. They treat it like a college football rivalry.
Well, everyone will get an extra hour of sleep on this week,
except for me.
Everyone, and I want to ask Big Al. So what's any trend here when the clock changes? These players get the extra hour on a Sunday. What happens?
Yeah, I don't get the extra hour. We don't change our clocks.
When does it fall back on Saturday night?
Yep. Saturday night. Saturday we fall back Saturday night.
Nice. It will give me an extra hour in the morning. The show for me will start an hour later, so I'll have an extra hour in the morning, and maybe that will be what I need.
Yeah, you get an extra hour of sleep.
I don't have sleep, but I could do other stuff. I could work.
Oh, yeah.
Gives me an extra hour.
And this Brown Bengals game is pretty interesting. The divisional matchup here.
Battle of Ohio. The Bengals, of course, did everyone dirty last week.
Yeah, they can't do that again. They're going to have a good game back home. They have to bounce back.
You got a lot of turmoil there in Cleveland with the receiver Beckham, and now he's released. Landry's questionable, Peoples-Jones questionable. So they've got some issues there at wide receiver. Sometimes you get a diva out of there. Teams play a little better. Chubb looks like he's gonna play. I mean, Burrow's been pretty good, and Cleveland defense has been no great shakes either. So have a look at the Bengals in this one. So, Mitch, you have faith in Sam Darnold or P.J. Walker?
Either one. I just think it's going to be a tight game. I like Mac Jones. I don't think he's going to slaughter anybody. He's a check down guy. I think against that defense, the check down guys, he's going to get people hurt.
Yeah, those open field hits. It's like the tight end. It's like those check downs, unless on their wide side of the field. But yeah,
it's like rounders. Check.
You get those open field when you get tackled in high. These defenders hit you at a high speed with those check downs.
Yeah, it's too much. Too much checking down for me, Mac Jones. He's always checking down. Got last set of games. The Eagles and the Chargers fresh off that win over the Lions. Joe had the Lions in that one. The Chiefs
never live it down.
Chiefs in the Pack. No, you will not live it down. The Chiefs with the Packers. I begged her not to take the Lions.
But I know how this came up.
I was like, I forbid you to take the Lions.
But there was something that happened in our office pool where you kind of like alluded to you shouldn't, and then because I heard I shouldn't, then I wanted to because I hate listening to what people tell me what to do. So there was something. I'll have to go back and watch the video because then I got ingrained in my head. Well, I'm taking the Lions.
That's when it's you shouldn't, but you do. That's like oh, you shouldn't, you shouldn't treat yourself to a new, you shouldn't eat another ice cream sandwich or something. All right, that just for that, I'm gonna, not the Lions.
Dan Campbell will break his maiden against the Bears on Thanksgiving.
Yep, that's what we were saying all along. That because Joe keeps saying they have to win sometime, and it's like that's the game that figures. Is the Bears on Thanksgiving?
Well, absolutely, because then all the Lions fans can be happy. Have a good Thanksgiving.
I'll be
short week.
I'll be on at halftime for that one.
And you go against Detroit in the week before Thanksgiving because that'll be a look-ahead spot for them.
Definitely.
How about this Packers against the Chiefs? We finally get to see Jordan Love show. First-round draft choice. There's all these other quarterbacks that have been taken in the first round that are all playing in the NFL, and this guy hasn't played, but he's got to sit behind one of the best.
The Chiefs defense. We saw the Packers defense play well against the Cardinals, and I will say this: I don't want to lay more than a touchdown against it, and lay points with Chiefs here with this defense and what they're playing. Just can't do it.
The Cardinals 49ers game is fully inverted now to 49ers minus 2.5 against the Cardinals, and the issue here is Kyler Murray.
Yeah. And AJ Green is on COVID, so they lose AJ Green, and also they've got Hopkins is injured. He's listed as questionable with a hamstring injury, and he did not practice. Let's see, he wasn't even on the field for practice this morning. So that's really a bad sign there. So we may be looking at if Murray plays, he'll have a backup. There'll be backups there. Two of his wide receivers will be backed up.
Well, this now begs the question: who's worse, Colt McCoy or Jimmy Garoppolo? It's pretty close. I know that this Chris Streveler is better than all of them. Third stringer from the Canadian Football League.
49ers running back Mitchell was limited at practice. He's dealing with a rib injury. He didn't practice on Wednesday, hit the field for one day, and he had a non-contact jersey on, so they're afraid about him, Mitchell. So Mitchell may not be at full strength. If he does play, he'll probably I'm sure they'll be going for his ribs if he plays because he's got a rib issue. Yeah. Yeah, this is a game that's impacted by injury. You're gonna have to wait till game time, 30 minutes. We got to see who's playing, who's not here. There's too many impact players here with questionable statuses right now. Maybe your halftime show, Mitch, you'll have a better view on your Sunday morning early halftime show.
We took the Cardinals in our circa pick, so we might have to change that one out. Yeah,
I think we do. I think there's too much doubt and questions around that one.
Our other team there was the Raiders. I
like the Raiders. I really do believe in them as coming together as a team.
Yep. So We'll skip the Cards and switch to the Raiders.
Yeah.
Going back to that Charger-Eagles game, does look like a short number on the Chargers side.
It does.
It does.
It definitely does.
And we saw the weakness with the Chargers is the run defense, but Hurts's running ability, I think it's not the running backs that will give him trouble. It's Hurts that you have to worry about. And we saw what Lamar Jackson did. So, but I don't think Hurts is even near that level. So I would have
nowhere near.
I would not have worries at all with the Chargers in that one, especially because their core is clean. There's no injuries.
So Sunday night football,
which is rare.
Sunday night, the Rams against the Titans, the rematch of the Super Bowl. And then we have Monday Night Football, the Bears and the Steelers. I like the Titans a lot on Sunday night. A lot. Maybe I'm just a sucker.
No,
I think plus the points. Yeah.
I'm with you there. The Rams' pass defense is not the greatest. I mean, they give up yardage. So I would definitely look at the Tennessee side. We saw that flat performance against Detroit, right? Detroit and Goff.
Well, here's who the Rams started. They had the win against the Bears, who are lousy. They beat the Colts 27-24, and they beat Tampa Bay, which is their big win. The loss to Arizona. Then coming out of that, they beat Seattle. That was the game where Geno Smith was unleashed to the world. Then they beat the Giants, the Lions, and the Texans in their last three.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I think it's the dog here at plus 7.5.
And I think people, hopefully they'll yell at McVay saying it's because you played that second half like that against the Texans. That's why this happened.
The Monday night game, I don't trust the Bears on the road. I mean, other than that Raider game was kind of weird because Gruden was going through that issue. So I kind of scratched that off. Look at the road results here: lose by 20 at the Rams, lose by 20 at Cleveland, lose by 35 at Tampa Bay. If you can get Pittsburgh under a touchdown, I could only look at the Steelers side.
Absolutely, and I think that Bears game against the Raiders, they got the win because of the refs. The refs wanted them to win that game. They called everything on the Raiders that time. And I think the Steelers get a nice win here at home.
Good atmosphere there in Pittsburgh for a Monday night. I mean, they get even though the opponent isn't the greatest, the fans are very loyal to the Steelers, and they'll show up and back them here.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, that takes us through the NFL and college schedule for this weekend. Got it pretty thoroughly. We did it in about an hour, which is pretty solid compared to last week. But thanks, everyone, for joining us. Thanks, Joe. Thanks, Tony. Next Friday, of course, I'll be here again with these guys. I think we have big schedules in both leagues. So thanks, everyone, for joining us. And we appreciate each and every one of you. Of course, check out our betting tools, PickDawgz and Sports Chat Place. Best in the business.